I've been dragging my plants inside for years, but I'm not sure if they're gonna fit this year because they get bigger and bigger every year. Hi, I'm Alex, and I am growing tropical plants in New York. And the only way to grow all of these plants is to bring them inside during the winter time. I don't have the money or the time to buy these huge plants year after year. A lot of these plants are actually really small when I got them, and I've had them for over 15 years now. And I've got it down to a science where exactly these plants are gonna go in the house and how they're going to fit. But because plants grow and get bigger and bigger every year, there's always a little uncertainty about whether or not they're actually going to make it. So let's find out. A lot of people ask me, when is it time to bring the tropical plants in for the season? It really depends on the plant. I've actually had some tropical plants do pretty well when it's cooler outside. It's really, as long as it stays above freezing, most of them are okay. Like this cordyline can survive temperatures that are right near freezing. Technically, it can even survive below freezing. Last year I had some die to the ground and then they came back and, you know, they didn't look great, but they did survive temperatures briefly down below 30 degrees without a problem. So I do like to bring them in typically when temperatures drop to like 38, 39 degrees. The palms though, like this bottle palm, which is actually looking like it's reaching the end of its life, unfortunately. I'm starting to come to terms with that because the trunk, it had damage when I purchased it back in 2014. So this is more than 10 years ago. And unfortunately, that damage is getting worse and worse as the plant is getting bigger. So I do think that this might be the last year for a bottle palm. Point is though, some of these more tropical palms, they do start to show some signs of stress when it's cold out for too long. We, sometimes don't see that kind of cold until almost November. But here we are starting to bring these plants inside now because I've got a lot of plants. So sometimes I just need to get it done when my schedule fits instead of just waiting until the night before. When I was younger, I would wait till the night before it got cold and I would just bring all my plants inside because I wanted them to soak up as much sun as possible. But life just is a little busier these days, so I'm just gonna bring them in whenever I can. Honestly, this Adondola palm looks better than it ever has before. So I'm really curious to see if it's going to fit through the door. That's the biggest problem every year with this palm, is whether or not it'll fit into the door. It's an even bigger problem for my plumeria, but the good news is, at least with plumerias, I can cut a stem off if I need to, if it doesn't fit, but I always run into a little bit of a existential crisis when it comes to cutting them off, because I know that when I cut them off, there'll be a year or two where I don't get blooms from that stem, and I do love these blooms. They're so pretty. I actually still have a lot of plumeria in bloom. Even the one by the gazebo is still flowering. I use a caddy to bring in some of my plants, but I find that kind of just rotating this big palm around works a little easier. I might have to move this plumeria out of the way, which again, look at the blooms on this. I mean, like, how cool is this? That's awesome. So I'm still getting blooms on my plumeria. Anyway, I'm moving that out of the way so that way I can do a little rolling motion with this big palm, which I find for this particular palm tree, because it's so tall and it's not really very wide, it's easier to just sort of roll it. Some of my plants I use the caddy, but I find just rolling this one around, I just gotta find a direction to roll it, tends to be a little bit easier. It's not really that hard. The hard part's getting it up the stairs. All right, this is the part that makes me nervous. Will it fit through this tiny door? Like I said, this plant gets bigger and bigger every year. All right, I managed to get this up the stairs. It was not easy. I filmed it for my Instagram if you want to see what that looks like. Now I got to get it through the door. Good news is these palm fronds are pretty flexible. They survive hurricane force winds. So what's a little push through a door for a plant like that? And we have a little studio audience too, right, Lenny? You're not going to be very happy to have all these plants inside the house, are you? Probably not. But you're so cute. Okay. This is the slide. And there she is. She made it. She is beautiful. Ugh. She is also very heavy. So here are a couple of my tips. If you're bringing plants inside, you want to make sure that you keep them dry right before you bring them in, because that waterlogged soil is so much heavier than dry soil is. Another tip, just check for bugs, especially if you have a new plant in your collection. I've been bringing these plants inside for so many years now. I really don't have any problems with spider mites and powdery mildew and mealy bugs and really any other pest or disease that you can think of inside the house. I used to have problems with it, but over the years, those plants that were problems were unfortunately lost to Mother Nature's wrath, and the ones that were stronger survived, and so that's the benefit. Also, these plants are really well adjusted to life inside the house because they're used to it. I've had them for so many years now that I find that, they don't mind the lower light inside the house, and they've really acclimated very well to it. So, basically, stay with it. The longer you do this, the easier it gets. And it's not because you're getting better at taking care of them, it's because the plants are getting better at adapting to that situation. All right, next up I have that huge rubber plant in the gazebo. That's a big one. Of course, my plumeria, that's a big one too. And I used to bring all of these plants in a single day. I have my huge fiddle leaf fig. I have tons of cordyline plants, these tea plants as they're also known. They're not super heavy, but they're big. And when you're doing all of this and all of the plumerias all in one day, it's very, very overwhelming. So anyway, long and the short of it is that I do it in phases. So today I'm just doing the ones that go into the kitchen, and then next time I'll do the ones that go into the living room and the dining room. And I like to prioritize by which plants are a little bit more finicky and put those in first. I have some plants that are actually, although they're considered tropical, they can handle frost and freezing temperatures. So I bring those in maybe closer to Thanksgiving time, and they go in the garage, so it's easier to just slide them in instead of dealing with those horrible stairs. If you do have any questions, let me know. I would love to hear them. In the meantime, let's bring in some more plants, huh? The hard part was pulling this out of the gazebo without it falling into the pool. Look how pretty though the monstera looks. Do you see? Oh my gosh, I just love the way that those leaves look just dangling out of the pool. All right, I'm not done with the obstacle yet though. I still have to get it past the pool ladder. That one's really hard to do. We did it! This is an obstacle course. Have I mentioned how much I hate these stairs? All right, believe it or not, only 4 plants are in here, and I have like 150 between my house and my parents' house, which is where we are right now. Love the skylights in this room. This is my favorite room for the plants. It's kind of nice to have breakfast with them out here. We have the light, of course, from the sliding doors as well. So it's just a pretty good setup. And I liked starting with this room because it gets me kind of excited to have these plants in close quarters again. As much as I like summertime, it is really kind of unique to be able to have a tropical rainforest in your house during the dreariest days of the year too. Maybe I'll decorate them with some Christmas lights. But before we finish, I just want to go outside really briefly and show you how many more are still left out here. It is still a tropical oasis, and we really don't have any major cold coming anytime soon. There's no frost or freezes all the way through the rest of October, but I gotta bring them in, so it's now or never. And weather can change very quickly in November here. So I'll gradually bring the rest of these in, and when you see me in November, they'll just be the subtropical plants that are out here. And I'll give you a full tour of what the inside of the house looks like. But I'll probably post plenty more videos before November too. So give me a subscribe, give this video a like if you enjoyed what you saw.